Chosen one, there is a holy interruption happening in your life, and it was started by heaven. You are not here by chance. You were called to this moment by God, who is showing you what has already been written about you in a timeline. The signs around you are real. Anointed one, they are proof that the God who heals, the God who speeds things up, and the God who lifts without warning has entered your life with a purpose that goes beyond what you can see. You are on the verge of a breakthrough that has been waiting for the right time to happen. It will come, just like it says in Habakkuk 2:3, and it won't be late. Things that seemed lost are coming back. What felt denied is being changed. What you thought was over is coming back to life because of the divine funding that is coming your way. Chosen one, heaven is changing outcomes, lining up steps, and getting ready for a transfer that can't be stopped because your future is already safe. Paragraph 2, about 990 characters, and even now, you can feel the truth of it in the quiet parts of your spirit. Not all reminders come in the form of words. Sometimes it comes as something that is still and steady, waiting to be found just below this moment. You have been feeling that quiet pressure and subtle stirring in your spirit for a reason. It won't let you settle where you are. Something sacred is coming to you. Something has been building behind the veil for a long time, even before you asked for help or knew how deeply heaven was already committed to your future. Anointed one, what is unfolding around you right now is not coincidence, it is divine orchestration, done with the same exact timing as when God spoke light into darkness. You are at a turning point, and heaven is paying for what comes next. I want you to hear this with your whole heart. There are times in life when you are just getting by, pushing through, and trying to figure out why doors are closed and nights are quiet. Paragraph 3, about 990 characters. And then there are holy seasons when God changes everything all at once. I have lived long enough, prayed long enough, and been humbled long enough to know the difference. And chosen one, the air around you right now has the same holy weight that I have felt before every big change in my own life, the same change that kept me from falling apart, the same shift that lifted me in ways I couldn't have done on my own. That is the change that is hanging over you right now. Anointed one, everything they tried to use to stop you has become proof against them in heaven's courts. God has taken all of your traps, delays, dismissals, and times when people didn't see how valuable you were and put them in His hands. He didn't do this to shame you for the past, but to help you in the future. Heaven doesn't just give you back what you lost, it gives you back more than what you went through. I learned this in my own wilderness. There were times when I thought that lack had the last word. Paragraph 4, about 980 characters. But just when I thought I had nothing left to hold on to, God reminded me that the vision would come. As Habakkuk 2:3 says, not fast, not slow, but appointed. Chosen one, your time is coming like a storm of goodness, alignment, and supernatural provision. You can feel it, even if you can't see it all yet. Something inside you has been waking up. Something has been saying, get ready. Even on days when everything around you seemed still, something in your chest has been burning. That's not instinct. That is not a good sign. This is the inner witness of someone who has been chosen by God to rise above others. Heaven is looking at how strong, obedient, and good you are, and how you didn't give up when every logical reason said you should have, and because of that, something very special is coming your way, a supernatural gift that can't be explained by hard work or human planning. Paragraph 5, about 980 characters. It's something I've only seen a few times in my life, and when it comes, It comes all at once. I want you to remember the times when you were hanging on by a thread, the nights when you couldn't sleep because you were thinking about what you didn't have, the quiet places where you asked God if He still knew you. I've been in those trenches too. I have asked myself questions. I have thought about whether or not I got the path wrong, but every time, without fail, God showed that the silence was not a sign of abandonment, it was building. He was helping me grow by pushing my limits and making me stronger in the areas that were important to me. And now, chosen one, He is doing the same thing in your life. You are not behind, you are not forgotten, you are not being ignored, you are being set up. Some doors didn't open before because of this. This is why some relationships ended so quickly. This is why you felt alone when you needed help the most. It was all a divine school and a way to learn about spirituality. Sixth paragraph, about 980 characters. Heaven was getting you ready for the heavy load you are now ready to carry. You might not know this yet, but your obedience in secret times has built up spiritual equity. Heaven keeps records that people on earth can't see. You were kind every time you felt cruel, every time you chose to forgive instead of getting back at someone, every time you kept going when life didn't give you any praise. There was no waste of these moments. They became money in the world that we can't see, and now that money is turning into supernatural funding, the resources that were set aside for you are no longer on hold. They are busy. I know this because I've been there when waiting turns into release, prayer turns into manifestation, and endurance turns into elevation, and the signs around you, your sudden clarity, your growing inner strength, and the peace that keeps coming to your mind, are all signs that God is leading you to a future with money. Paragraph 7, about 980 characters. And this isn't normal funding. This isn't a small break or a short-term relief. This is the kind of provision that changes everything connected to your name. It changes everything for the better for generations to come. Chosen one, heaven doesn't pay for noise. Heaven pays for what is needed. Heaven pays for fate. Heaven gives money to people who can survive in the desert without losing their oil. And you, chosen one, have shown that your heart can handle what your calling needs. This is why the pressure has gone up. There is always pressure before release. Pressure proves that you are close to a breakthrough. Pressure shows that the spiritual vault with your name on it is starting to open. The change has already started, chosen one. This moment has a holy weight to it, like when heaven is about to reveal something that has been promised for a long time. If your spirit has been restless, if your dreams have been louder, and if your inner world has felt like it is stretching beyond what your life currently reflects, it is alignment. Paragraph 8, about 990 characters. God is making the space inside you bigger before He makes the space around you bigger. Anointed one, what you have felt is not just in your head, it is in line, it's getting ready. The unmistakable vibration of a funded future is getting closer, and I need you to hear me clearly. You are not entering a time when God just fixes things that are broken. You are entering a time when God pays you back, heals you, and rewrites your story with such accuracy that even the parts you never understood will suddenly become clear as necessary parts of a divine plan. You thought there were parts of your life that were wasted, chosen one, years that felt like they were eaten up by disappointment, times when you tried to make things happen but they kept slipping away. I know that feeling very well. For a long time, I thought I had ruined my chances, lost my timing, or fallen too far behind for anything good to happen, but God always showed a different plan. Paragraph 9, about 990 characters. God showed me every single time that what I thought was stagnation was actually strategy. He was hiding me, shaping me, cutting me, and keeping me safe. And He is doing the same thing with you, Holy One. Heaven is not late, heaven is exact, and for the first time in a long time, the timelines of heaven and your readiness are starting to line up. That's where supernatural funding comes from, the point where divine timing and spiritual maturity meet. You might have thought about your life and wondered why you weren't further along, why the chances you prayed for kept going to other people, why you were always the one giving, helping, encouraging, and pouring, but not getting the same in return very often. These weren't punishments, they were tests. God was testing your heart, your motives, and your ability to keep going. He didn't doubt you, He wanted to give you more than you ever asked for. Paragraph 10, about 990 characters. Chosen one. When God gives someone money, He first checks their foundation, your foundation, even though it has been cracked by life and weathered by storms, has proven to be unshakable. When life tried to harden you, you stayed soft, you have stayed honest even when it would have been easy to take the easy way out, you have stayed true even when you couldn't see the results. Heaven values these traits, heaven rewards these qualities. Anointed One, the money that is coming to you is not just money. God is giving us clarity before the money comes in, clarity that cuts through the fog, clarity that brings back trust, clarity that shows you what to do next without fear. I remember when God started to make things clearer in my life, there were no fireworks when it got here. It came in quietly, like how the light from dawn brightens a room before you know the sun is coming up. Things started to make sense. There was no longer any doubt, there was only peace. My inner voice got stronger, and all of a sudden I knew which way I had been ready to go all along. Paragraph 11, about 990 characters. Chosen one. You are now entering that same clarity. The Spirit is where supernatural funding starts, long before it shows up in the physical world. Heaven tells you things through intuition, dreams, sudden peace, unexpected bravery, divine restlessness, and the letting go of old desires that don't fit with your destiny anymore. These are signs that the things you need are coming to you, not going away from you. And here's what you need to know. The strange resistance, the sudden distractions, the emotional pressure, and the opposition you faced recently were all signs of being close, not of danger. Everything tries to pull you back into old versions of yourself when you're about to break through, not because you are failing, but because you are changing. I've fought that battle inside myself many times. When I got closer to elevation, old wounds came back, old fears whispered, and old habits tried to take hold of me. I wasn't weak, I was getting rid of identities that couldn't go on to the next season. Paragraph 12, about 980 characters. You are getting rid of old identities right now, Anointed One. This is why your hunger has changed. This is why some relationships don't feel right. This is why talking to people who used to make you feel better now makes you feel empty. God is taking away things that can't handle the weight of your next level. You are entering a realm of provision where effort multiplies. Chosen one. When things happen at the right time, where people come at the right time for you, where doors open even before you knock. That is money from God, that is a favor from the supernatural. That means God is saying, I'm with you. But listen, divine money doesn't move through chaos, it moves through alignment, and the way things are going in your life right now isn't by chance, it is the outcome of each season you endured, every lesson you learned, and every tear you prayed through. You are ready, you have passed a test, you have been pushed, and now you are becoming the kind of person who can take care of the blessing without losing who you are. 13 paragraphs, about 980 characters. The future you are walking into will not be like the path you took to get here. Anointed One, you had to survive in the past, now you need to plan for the future. Your past needed you to be strong, your future needs you to grow. You had to hold on to your past, but you need to step into your future. Chosen One, heaven is about to show you who you really are, and when this change starts to happen in your life, you won't doubt that it is God. You will know, there will be no doubt about the peace, the provision will be clear, the doors will not make sense, the time will be just right. Your spirit will say, this is the moment everything was preparing me for. Chosen One, there is a holy reason why your spirit has been feeling a pull, a shift, and a quiet but undeniable call to go deeper. Heaven is getting you ready for a place of abundance that you have never been to before. And Anointed One, before the blessing shows up in the world, God always strengthens the inner vessel. Paragraph 14, about 980 characters. What He is paying for in your life is too important to be built on weak foundations. So, He has been making you stronger in ways you didn't always get. There were times when you thought God wasn't listening, when it seemed like the heavens were closed and your prayers were just bouncing back. I know what that feels like. There have been times when I put everything in front of God and still didn't know what to do. There were times when I thought He had forgotten the promises He made to me, but looking back, those were the times when God was working behind the scenes, changing my path, taking away things that couldn't carry me, and getting my spirit ready to hold everything He had planned. Chosen One, that is exactly what He has been doing for you. You have been going through a divine refinement that looks like a delay. Anointed One, you thought nothing was going on, but everything was going on. Heaven has been cutting back on your steps, putting your motives to the test, and making your resolve stronger. Paragraph 15, about 980 characters. Heaven has been helping you become more aware and opening your spiritual senses. The tests you took were not meant to hurt you, they were proofs. Proof that you wouldn't give in under pressure, proof that you wouldn't mess up your work, evidence that you could handle more. You survived storms that were meant to break you because you were chosen. This is why things that hurt other people didn't hurt you. You were being prepared for a job that was much bigger than the problems you were facing. And now that time of quiet testing is over, it's time for a time of supernatural revealing. But here's what most people miss: when God starts to pay for a future, He often starts by shutting down things that don't fit. That's why some chances went away. That's why some relationships fell apart. That's why doors that used to open easily suddenly shut without warning. God was not saying no to you. He was in charge of you. He was changing the course of your life. Paragraph 16, about 980 characters. He was resetting your path so that the blessing could come to you where your spirit, not your feelings, was leading you. I remember times when it felt like everything around me was falling apart just before God lifted me up. I didn't see it at the time, but I do now. Heaven takes away what can't handle the blessing's weight. Heaven makes room for the new to come in without any trouble. Heaven quiets the noise so you can hear the soft voice of instruction. That same divine pattern has been at work in your life, whether you knew it or not. Chosen One, the supernatural gift coming your way is not a coincidence. It happened because of alignment, and you don't make alignment happen. You become it. You have become aligned through your strength, obedience, faithfulness in the dark, and refusal to give up your identity even when life tried to bury it. Heaven is on your side right now, and what is coming will not be easy to miss. Paragraph 17, about 980 characters. Heaven is shining a light on your next chapter, not to honor you, but to show you the God who has been with you. Your anointing will speak louder than what you say, your presence will change the mood, your strength will earn new respect, your faith will bring you resources from places you didn't expect. That is what it means to live a funded destiny. You must also know that this kind of provision is not random. Anointed one, it is aimed. Heaven does not fill empty desires. Heaven flows into purpose. Heaven pays for tasks that build, heal, lift, restore, and change. And you, because of everything you've been through, have a depth, a compassion, and a vision that can be trusted with supernatural supply. That's why the last season felt so heavy. You weren't breaking, you were getting bigger. God was expanding your spiritual capacity so that when the blessing came, you wouldn't try to ruin it, be afraid of it, or run away from it. You would stand in it with faith. Paragraph 18, about 980 characters. Some people around you won't get this change, chosen one. They won't get how you got ahead so quickly, how doors opened for you without any explanation, or how opportunities came to you when you weren't looking for them. They won't remember the night you cried, the hard times you went through, or the sacrifices you made when no one else did. They will only see the height. Let them speak, let them think. You don't need to explain why you did someone a favor. And here's something that might surprise you. The blessing that is coming to you is not just for you. It is for every life that your obedience will change. The wealth, the clarity, the doors, and the connections are all being released because of the generations that are connected to your name. God is not paying for a moment. He is paying for a line of people, a legacy, and a future that will last longer than you. Anointed one, the change you are about to go through is not just for you. It runs in families. Your yes will break cycles, and your faith will end scarcity. Paragraph 19, about 980 characters. The blessing you are about to receive will break the patterns that have been hurting your family for a long time. You are the divine break. You are the point of change. You are the one who was chosen by heaven to change what your family thought would never change. You are closer than you think, chosen one. The spiritual vault that has been assigned to you is starting to open. The provision is already in motion. People are already being put in place. Opportunities are already lining up with what you're doing. You might not see the whole picture yet, but you can feel it like a change in the wind before the clouds move, like a calm that comes over the world before dawn. This is just the beginning. The fullness is still to come, chosen one. At some point on this journey, the promise will no longer be a distant thought, but a real presence in your spirit, but the manifestation still seems just out of reach. This is the part that most people don't talk about, the long time between the revelation and the fulfillment. Part 20, about 980 characters. The quiet middle is where your faith no longer has the excitement of the beginning or the peace of the end. Heaven saw you in that stretch, anointed one. Heaven saw you carry expectations that were heavy some days and not so heavy other days. And heaven kept track of every moment you stayed faithful, even when it didn't seem like anything was happening. I know that place very well. I have lived with the tension of knowing that God said something, feeling it burn in my chest, seeing signs that confirmed the direction, and still waking up to the same situation every day. I have stood in that hallway between the past and the future, and there, I learned something that changed everything. The wait is not empty. The waiting isn't a punishment. God builds the kind of strength that can hold a blessing without falling apart when it comes through waiting. You have been in that holy place, chosen one, not stuck, but ready, not forgotten, but made stronger, not overlooked, but made stronger. Paragraph 21. About 980 characters. You didn't always feel strong, but you were getting stronger in the little things. In the mornings, even though your heart was tired, you got up. You prayed at night even when your words didn't seem strong. In the conversations where you cheered others on while quietly wondering when your own big break would come. These times were not wasted. They grew into spiritual strength. They showed that you were ready. Anointed one, what heaven is giving now needed a version of you that didn't exist before the waiting, and only time, holy time, intentional time, could make that version of you. Those were the days when heaven used to hold you in faith instead of emotion. You felt like you were going in circles and every step felt small, because faith that is based on excitement is not deep. But faith that lasts through a drought becomes strong. I remember waking up one morning with no feelings left. This is the 22nd paragraph, about 980 characters. I wasn't mad, I didn't have any hope, I wasn't disheartened, I was just empty, and in that emptiness, God found me, not through a sign, not through a voice, but through a peace that came over me for no reason. It was in that quiet moment of my most ordinary life that I realized that heaven does some of its best work without any show. You have had times like this, anointed one, days when everything looked the same, but something inside you told you to hold on. That voice wasn't yours. He was the one who said he would finish what he started. Chosen one. Endurance isn't cool, it doesn't yell, it doesn't get people's attention, it happens in the background of your life, in the places where no one cheers for you. But endurance is the very ground where miracles take root. People who stay even when their heart wants to run away will have a breakthrough. Those who choose to trust when things are still unclear will get what they need. People who have shown they can be consistent get divine funding. Paragraph 23. About 980 characters. It goes to those who are steady even when things aren't going their way. This is one reason why heaven chose you. You are not here because you never had to work hard. You are here because you kept going. You didn't break your promise. You didn't let anger ruin your hope. You didn't let the wait change who you are. You never doubted God's character, even when you doubted the timing. And anointed one, that difference means something in the spiritual world. There were times when your faith felt like a thin thread, but you still held on. Days when good things happening to other people made you feel bad about yourself, but you kept believing. Days when you looked at your life and thought, how could a future as great as the one God whispered come from where I am now? And still, you kept coming back with honesty, kindness, and bravery. Heaven gives money to people with that kind of heart. Chosen one, endurance has made you stronger. It taught you when to talk and when to be quiet. Paragraph 24. About 980 characters. It taught you how to tell the difference between your own voice, the enemy's voice, and God's voice. It taught you that being consistent is a spiritual power, not a personality trait. And now the promise has come true because you stayed true to yourself when everything else felt off. Things that used to seem far away are now planned. What used to seem impossible is now in line. What once seemed like it would take a long time is now right on time. I have learned something about long periods of waiting. Anointed one, Faith is often kept strong not by big miracles or constant explanations, but by simple, repeatable reminders that keep your spirit steady when your feelings change. And there is a quiet reminder like this one below in the description. But listen, people have seen how strong you are. Heaven has kept track of every tear, every prayer, and every act of obedience you thought no one saw. You are entering a time when God will openly respond to what you have been carrying in secret, where public support meets private loyalty. Paragraph 25, about 980 characters, where the seeds you planted in secret grow in full view. You did not suffer in vain, chosen one. You went through this so that when the promise comes, you will be stronger, more grounded, and ready. You went through this so that the blessing wouldn't be too much for you, but would lift you up. You put up with it so that your spirit, not your situation, decides how you stand. You have shown a lot of strength, and what is coming is worth it, and the endurance you have shown is worthy of the blessing that is coming, chosen one. There is a moment in every divine journey when heaven begins to uncover what was once hidden, and suddenly everything you survived starts to make sense. The wait, the stretching, the silence, the refining, none of it was random. Anointed one, you have entered that moment. The air around your life is shifting, the atmosphere is different. Even if your circumstances look unchanged on the surface, something underneath them has already turned in your favor, and the reason is simple. Paragraph 26, 980 characters. Heaven is now honoring what you carried in private. For so long, you lived in a place where you had to hold on to promises no one else could see. You carried visions that looked impossible to the natural eye. You believed for outcomes that didn't match the evidence around you, and while others judged your pace, heaven saw your posture. While others misunderstood your journey, heaven understood your assignment, chosen one. This is why divine funding is now moving toward you like a river that has finally reached its release point. Anointed one, before a great unveiling, there is always a great quiet. Before God makes the next chapter public, He completes a deep work in the inner life. I know that season intimately. I've had years where everything external appeared still, yet internally I could feel God reshaping the structure of who I was becoming. It was subtle, almost unnoticeable day by day, but powerful in hindsight, and I see that same internal transformation in your life right now. Paragraph 27, 980 characters. There is a maturity in you that wasn't there before, a steadiness that wasn't formed by success, but forged by surrender, a clarity that didn't come from strategies, but from listening. You have learned to walk with God instead of rushing ahead. You have learned to trust His pace instead of forcing your own. You have learned that the promise is not fragile just because the process feels slow, chosen one. That inner development has positioned you for what comes next. Heaven funds those who are ready, not in talent or resume, but in spirit, and your spirit is ready. It has been carved, stretched, humbled, anchored, and awakened. It has been tested in the dark so it can stand in the light. When heaven releases blessing, favor, and supernatural provision, it does not release it into unprepared soil. It releases it into the lives of those who have proven they can steward increase without losing themselves. And that is you, anointed one. The next chapter of your life will look different. Paragraph 28, 980 characters. It will not resemble the terrain you walked through to get here. The wilderness was for your training, the waiting was for your strengthening, but the fulfillment, this next unfolding, is for your revealing. Heaven is about to make visible what you have carried invisibly for years. And here is the part that may surprise you. The shift will begin quietly, almost gently, not explosive at first, but steady, like a dawn that keeps expanding until you realize the whole sky has changed. You will see small alignments before big ones, unexpected yeses, conversations that open doors, people who remember your name at the exact moment favor is needed, ideas that drop into your spirit with divine clarity, opportunities that require no striving, only stepping. Chosen one, supernatural funding often enters your life disguised as favor, clarity, timing, and connections. Money may be part of it, but it is never the beginning of it. The beginning is always spiritual. Paragraph 29, 980 characters. The beginning is always God whispering, now. The beginning is always alignment forming step by step, and I need you to know this. It is not happening because you were perfect, it is happening because you were faithful, you kept your heart tender, you kept your spirit watchful, you kept walking even when discouragement pulled at your feet, you kept believing even when hope felt thin. Those private victories are why heaven is moving publicly in your direction. Anointed one, this is also the season where God begins restoring what was taken from you, not just in quantity, but in quality. Time you thought was wasted will return as acceleration, opportunities you lost will return upgraded, relationships that were removed will make sense in hindsight, and clarity will come where confusion once lived. God is not returning you to where you were. He is advancing you into what you were always meant to reach. Chosen one, this next stretch of your journey is marked by supernatural ease. Paragraph 30, 980 characters. It is not the absence of challenges, but the presence of grace that makes the path smoother than before. You will notice tasks feel lighter, decisions feel clearer, your steps feel guided. The confusion that once surrounded your direction will lift, the heaviness that once sat in your chest will dissolve, because when heaven funds your future, heaven also escorts you into it. And let me tell you something from my own story, when God begins to move like this, it often doesn't feel dramatic, it feels right, it feels peaceful. It feels like the internal tension you carried for years suddenly loosens its grip. It feels like the way home, feels familiar, steady, undeniable. Anointed one, everything you endured has prepared you to carry this without shaking. Everything you learned has positioned you to rise without fear, and everything you surrendered has opened the door for heaven to now pour freely. The alignment is real. The spiritual momentum is building. Paragraph 31, 980 characters. And the provision that once seemed distant is approaching with divine precision. Chosen one, the next signs that appear in your life will not be random. They will be markers, signals, witnesses that heaven has indeed begun funding your future in full. And once it begins, nothing, no resistance, no delay, no confusion, no human decision, can stop what God has already set in motion. Chosen one, there is a point in every divine unfolding where the atmosphere around you begins to shift before the evidence shows up in your hands. You may not be able to fully explain it, but something in your spirit recognizes that the ground beneath your life is no longer the same. Anointed one, you are standing in that place right now. Heaven has already initiated movements in your favor, and though much of it is still hidden from your natural sight, your spirit can feel the tremor of what is approaching. And here is what you must understand about this shift in the atmosphere. Paragraph 32, 980 characters. When God begins to release supernatural funding and breakthrough, the first thing to change is not your circumstances, it is your awareness. You start noticing things you ignored before. You start sensing alignment where there used to be resistance. You start feeling a calm boldness rising inside you, the kind that doesn't come from confidence in yourself, but from confidence in God's timing. I know this feeling deeply. I have walked into seasons where nothing external announced change, yet internally, I knew the shift had already begun, and every time without fail, what my spirit sensed eventually manifested in my reality. Chosen one, your spirit is sensing correctly. Heaven is ahead of you. Heaven is arranging the next chapter with precision. Heaven is orchestrating resources, positioning people, and aligning opportunities that you could not have strategized even if you tried. You are walking into a chapter where the supernatural and the practical will intertwine seamlessly. Paragraph 33, 980 characters. You will look back and realize nothing about your rise was accidental. Anointed One, the divine funding flowing toward you is layered. It is not a single blessing or a one-time relief, it is a sequence of divine interventions, each one unlocking the next. Heaven is not giving you a moment, heaven is giving you momentum, and momentum is far more powerful than a miracle. A miracle touches an event, but momentum transforms a life, and I need to tell you this with clarity, your momentum starts with identity. For too long, you were forced to operate beneath the truth of who you were. You dimmed your light to make others comfortable. You lowered your expectations to protect yourself from disappointment. You silenced your voice to avoid conflict. You lived smaller than the calling that pulsed beneath your ribs, but not anymore. Heaven is restoring your true identity, the one you carried before life wounded you, before betrayal hardened you, before disappointment trained you to shrink. Paragraph 34, 980 characters. Chosen One, Heaven is calling you back to the version of you that believed without hesitation, trusted without fear, dreamed without limits. That version of you was never naive, it was prophetic. That version of you knew that God planted something rare inside you. That version of you carried vision that others couldn't understand. That version of you felt chosen long before you ever heard the words spoken over your life. Anointed One, your identity is being resurrected, not the broken parts, but the anointed parts, not the fearful parts, but the faithful parts. And as identity is restored, authority is returning with it. You will notice that your decisions feel sharper, your discernment feels stronger, your boundaries feel more natural, your voice feels more anchored. These are signs that you are stepping into the spiritual authority required to steward the resources God is releasing. Chosen One, divine funding responds not to need, but to purpose.